Sometimes I forget that nobody is perfect. That's just par for the course. Welcome to being human. God knows that I've made hundreds, really thousands of mistakes in my life, and I try to learn from them. It's not a perfect going, and routinely I make the same mistake. You can't remember all the mistakes you made. You can only try not to, well, do them again. That doesn't work though, unfortunately. Let's be completely honest. And I think a lot of people, myself included, we forget that when it comes to game developers, nobody's going to get everything right 100% of the time. It's even worse when it's a company that you have to deal with. God knows. Now you have multiple people, definitely not going to be perfect. When I play a video game, I try to stay positive. I try to focus on the positive aspects of it. That's how I am. Yes, unfortunately, I'm going to eventually have to go into the negatives when teaching a new player the game. It happens all the time, even in Path of Exile. And Path of Exile is by and large probably the best game that you can play. Perfectly free to play. Nothing in the money store is, well, nothing in the money store is going to be pay to win. It's all cosmetic. It seems like more and more, however, and this might get a little loud, I'm not sure. It looks like she's going to jump. She's right under the microphone boom. Oh, she jumped over to the bed. Good job, Munchkin. My kitten. Unfortunately, over the past few weeks, really the past few months, I've been looking at a lot of the negative issues, and it's I've noticed them cropping up more and more. And you know what? I have to accept that nobody's perfect. I have to. That doesn't mean, however, that we accept mediocrity. That's not saying that we accept lower quality products. You don't do it. It doesn't matter. You're the consumer. You should have some say in the quality of the products. Unfortunately, that's not happening in many regards. Rift right now is going through what World of Warcraft did, what EVE Online did. It's going through what a lot of games will eventually hit. That part where they run out of ideas, or they decide that they are going to try to milk the player base for as much money as they can because they want to do other things. And when you get to that point, the only thing you can do is voice your concern, voice your discontent, and then act on it. And inevitably, when you have something like that happen, you're going to have somebody mention Monoclegate. It might be me, it might be other people. And there's a reason for that. Right now, there are legitimate threads on the forums for Rift in which people are talking about boycotts. And the truth of the matter is that boycotts for video games can be very effective. Monoclegate has proven that. A little background on what Monoclegate is. In 2011, CCP Games came out with the Incarna expansion for EVE Online. EVE Online's major patches are referred to as expansions. And the expansion was supposed to put into effect two things. First, walking in stations. Finally, we'd be actually seeing our avatar in-game. And the purpose for this was to test out the game engine they intended to use for their in-progress MMO for World of Darkness. The second thing that they introduced was the Nexus Exchange, which is pretty much like the Blizzard store or Tryon's the Rift credits and whatnot. And both of them were met with a lot of hostility. They were. Walking in stations actually overtaxed a lot of computers. It overtaxed a lot of even high-end computers were having problems, to the point that NVIDIA, in kind of a backhanded fashion partner with CCP, where if you used a CCP issued code, you'd get like 10% off of some, well, it wasn't their top of the line stuff, but on upgrades for your graphics unit. And a lot of people were like, can we turn this off because it's lagging, it's overheating, it's actually blue screening, it's black screening, and it was just not good. The next was the most controversial of the two. Or I guess I should say the more controversial of the two. In it, you could buy, well, at the time, not a lot of items, but the items were priced, well, they were pretty expensive. You could buy shirts, you could buy pants, all this stuff for your avatar. And they were priced as if they were real. A shirt or a pair of pants cost about $20 US. But the item that really ticked people off was the monocle, and in fact that's why it's called Monoclegate. It cost $70 US. And at the time, if you died, those would be destroyed as well. You didn't get to keep them permanently. But probably what really hit it off were the leaks. 4 things came together to really cause the player base of EVE Online to revolt. The first was general discontent. For months, even a year, the game was not having quality put into it. It was having more money funneled from it to 2 other projects. Dust 541, which was supposed to be the first-person shooter game that was supposed to run parallel to EVE Online. In EVE Online, you have all these planets throughout the solar systems, and you don't interact with them. They were kind of like, well, we have to fill space up with something. Here's planets. Here's asteroid belts. Dust 541 was supposed to run parallel to EVE Online. In fact, it was supposed to be that in Dust 541, your corporation, your unit, could actually call for allied orbital bombardment from the ships in EVE Online. It was supposed to be revolutionary. It was actually going to be really cool. And Dust 541 has had a decent run. It's been out for several years on PlayStation only. But in May it's stopping. Okay? But at the time that didn't matter. It was also being funneled to the World of Darkness MMO, which has since been canceled indefinitely. So there was general discontent for all of these decisions that were being made. The money was going elsewhere, and that was bothering a lot of people. Why? Because we were paying money for a game, and we were seeing very little of it funneled back into that game. So what ends up happening is the players kept voicing their concern. That was number 1. Number 2. 2 leaks happened around the time that Incarna came out. The first was the CCP internal newsletter that had the guy from Wall Street, I can't remember what his name is, on the cover, and it had the title, "Greed is Good?" ? Asking a question, is greed good? And in it, CCP employees put forth the discussion that maybe they should offer better ships, better modules, better ammunition for real life money. That didn't sit well with anybody because EVE Online is a subscription-based MMO. So you're essentially asking, should we add pay-to-win to our subscription-based MMO? Mandatory subscription-based. And, of course, the people revolted. The players revolted. The second leak happened about 2-3 days later. And it was an internal memo sent out by CCP's CEO in which he said they are innovative, they are ingenuitive, that change was going to happen, and that people wouldn't like change. I agree. Change is necessary. Nobody's disputing that. However, players were not going to accept it, and now was the time to listen, not to listen to what we say, but watch what we do. Okay. Good thing to tell the players of EVE Online, the game where if there is a game where the Ferengi rules of acquisition are embodied, it's EVE Online. My friend Anna likes to say that. It is the game where the Ferengi rules of acquisition apply. And so, people were upset. Understandably. It's understandable to understand. People can be upset about that. The third thing that came to a head and really started to push things over the edge was the incompetent public relations that happened. I want to say the night of Incarna launching, CCP Pan, at the time, one of the community moderators on the forums, much like how Ocho is the executive community manager for Rift's forums, put up a thread basically saying, yeah, I'm just here to let you guys complain, bitch, moan, and I'm just here to stop or to I'm really just here to put up a wall until the suits come up with a crafted answer that shuts you all up. And the players didn't like that. We obviously bitch, moaned, complained. And so we ended up having over a 2-week period. Not just that, but the developers ignored the biggest question we were asking, many times in big, bold, underlined gold letters. Do you intend to add golden ammunition to the next store? Which golden ammunition was our term for anything that would be pay to win. They ignored it. And in fact, they issued a dev blog in which they equated buying $70 monocle with $2,000 designer Japanese jeans, and didn't even touch on the main issue. And they allowed it to snowball and snowball and snowball without answering the questions, to the point that they had to call the CSM, the Council of Stellar Management, and say, we need to have an emergency meeting, and pretty much explain to the CSM, hey, we have no intention of putting golden ammo in the game. It took them like 2 weeks to do this, but this was after. This was after the boycott began. The fourth thing that came together was the general third-party media outlets, massively Joystick, Kotaku, stuff like that. Because third-party media outlets, if they don't really care about CCP, they don't really care about EVE Online. EVE Online does not fit the mold of a standard cookie-cutter MMO. It's not like World of Warcraft or Rift or Star Wars The Old Republic. It is a place where a lot of things happen that in other MMOs would get you suspended or banned. You can scam people out of the in-game currency. You can do a lot of things that normally you can't in other games. You scam somebody out of gold in World of Warcraft, that gold being taken away from you, giving it back to them, and you're probably going to bite a 72-hour suspension. EVE Online, as long as you don't break the law in real life, you don't use their Plex for Good program as some type of scam, you get away with it. And that's espionage happens, stuff like that. But those groups don't like EVE Online. Seriously, go to Kotaku. Look at the EVE Online stories they've done. They are almost always negative. Yeah, if there's a huge fight like in B5R, where $200,000 real life money of ships were destroyed, yeah, they'll put that in there because that is kind of newsworthy. But overall, it's going to be negative. And so You had the third-party sources watching this and licking their chops going, yes, yes, we like this shitstorm, because it was fucking with CCP and EVE Online. They loved it, and they fanned the flames. Okay. It didn't help that EVE News 24 and the Matani.com, which at the time were pretty important to EVE itself, were also fanning the flames. So you had like both sides pretty much going, hey, truce now? Just truce? Fuck with them? Okay. That's what happened. So you had all this come together, and the biggest part was definitely the feeling that CCP didn't care. That you had the boycott start. The boycott started on forums, funny enough, and it was pretty much a guy said, well, if you plan to get rid of your account, if you plan to cancel your account over this, let me know. Let me know which accounts you are ending. I will put you on this Excel spreadsheet on Google Docs, and we can look at how many accounts are going bye-bye. In the span of days, 3,000 accounts were gone, minimum. There was talk that up to 10,000 accounts had been canceled within days. And for a game that routinely only has 20 to 30,000 players on at a time, that's a big hit. So CCP finally listened. Monoclegate proved that the players do determine the direction of a game. The developers can have an idea of where they want to go, but if the players decide, no, it's not going that way, and they actually hold to their guns, they will win in the end. Why is this important when it comes to Rift? Well, there's a movement growing within Rift itself about boycotting the game, not spending money on the credits, not spending money on patron status, because of the decisions that Tryon has made, putting the earrings and Planeswalker water behind a paywall, essentially. Yeah, you can buy it with in-game currency, but somebody else has to pay real money for you to get that. So it may not be a direct paywall, but it's all contingent on people buying Rex. And if that Rex supply stops, nobody's buying it. The decision to move stacking dungeon charges and what else? Stacking dungeon charges and queuing for specific dungeons and warfronts if you're not a patron. Yeah. Just the decisions that have been made. The heavy-handed moderation that has been going on the forums ever since Apotheosis said bye-bye. Ever since all this has started, it's really ticked off a lot of players. Can you blame anyone for being upset over this? I certainly can't. I've said since Nightmare Tide that the game has lost a lot of quality. Still waiting for somebody to prove me wrong. Look at Nightmare Tide as opposed to Vanilla and Storm Legion. It is nowhere near them. And we're in a year and a half, and they're talking about another expansion. Much like how Blizzard did the same thing during Mists of Pandaria, where they realized we messed up. Kind of like how with Warlords of Draenor, we messed up. Let's declare a new expansion so we keep people coming back. They're trying to pull money from everybody that they can, and they're treating anybody who hasn't paid, who doesn't pay now. It doesn't matter how much you paid in the past. You're still being thrown under the bus, and you can't do any of this cool stuff that you used to be able to. You have to pay to get it. Now, I'm not saying that as a business they shouldn't make money. I am not. I'm a capitalist. I am a capitalist, okay? I believe that if you put quality into what you are doing, you should be paid for it. If you are offering services and people are using it, yes, they should pay for it. However, there should be quality behind it. Nightmare Tide and everything since then has not been quality. And the fact that Tryon is trying to ignore what's going on, the heavy-handed moderation on the forums, trying to monetize more and more and more, force you to pay to get benefits you've had since it went free to play. what do they want? What more could they want? The game is dying. The health of the game is no longer in question. It's got a cancer that needs to be fixed, but Tryon refuses to fix it. How they fix it? Put more quality into the game. But I digress. There is a movement on the Rift forums for a boycott. And there are a lot of people who are supporting the idea. You do have the occasional white knight who shows up and goes, oh, but a boycott has never worked. Look up Monoclegate. Look up Incarna. It worked before and it can work again. And in order for it to work, the players have to accept that they're going to have to make some hard decisions. They can't spend money on the game anymore. Log in and play as a free-to-play player, fine. Spend the credits you've already purchased, fine. Don't buy new credits. Don't buy for patron status. Once you do that, you are in a much, much better place. It requires the players to work together. During Monoclegate, players who normally hated each other in different alliances in different parts of space, they all, they all worked together. They all worked together, and you know what? It worked. It worked for them. The players will have to be the ones to bite the bullet, and it most likely will not be over immediately. EVE Online could see the money they were losing almost immediately because subscriptions that are canceled mean that next month you're not getting that money. With Rift being free to play, their money isn't just from patron status, it's from people buying credits. You want to be able to do this, you have to bite the bullet. Everybody will have to, or at least a vast majority will, to make it clear that it's not feasible monetarily to continue this, and you need to listen to the players. Trust me, Tryon as a business, this is their golden goose. This is the only game making them any type of money that is significant. Trove is not making them money. Devillion is not making them money. Tryon has a habit of going with things outside of Rift that fail. Defiance is the biggest one. But the players have to make that decision, and the players have to stick to their guns on it. Can Rift be saved? Yes. Do I want it to be saved? Absolutely. I thoroughly believe that Rift was the one and only MMO that has come out that could have been a WoW killer. But they need to go back to what worked, and what worked was a development team that cared. A quality product, quality content, not quantity. Stop pushing this mindless grind onto the players. It hasn't worked. It's not going to work. Simple as that. They get back to that. Their fundamentals, the fundamentals of the game, where everybody could not stop talking about how great it was. You know what? They do a lot better. They'd be pulling in money and they wouldn't have to force people into paying patron. Make patron amazing and people will pay to have it. Don't take away from the free-to-play players so that they're forced to do it. It could work. It's worked before. We just have to get off our asses. We all have to stick to our guns and say, the boycott is happening. Let's have fun. Yeah, we'll probably bite a few suspensions or even permanent bans for doing it. It's a possibility. Apotheosis, for all intents and purposes, has been banned. Most of their players have been banned. Just for publicly declaring they were no longer playing and the reasons why they were no longer playing. Whatever. If that's how they're going to react to discontent, then so be it. Tryon will have moved away from what they were. It'll be a clear indication that they no longer care about the players, they only care about the bottom line. And when you no longer care about the customer, there is no bottom line. They'll learn that. Other companies have learned it. I hope Rift can be fixed. I hope that they take it seriously and they do fix it. I don't know if they will. But that's going to be it for this video. It's already been freaking almost 25 minutes. I'm Spectre, and I'm out.